So I was like, maybe we could try to just switch off. Like she'll go into the microphone and bring out. Do you want to like? That's just not. No. Oh no. I know that was like the last thing. I was like, they always have like this.
Very specific.
Good. How are you guys doing?
Good. How are you?
Pretty okay. Actually very excited. Get a good week of work ready to go. Did you guys have a nice weekend?
Yeah. We're coming to
That's good. That's good. So, how many of you guys had a chance to sort of work on some of the edits from the introduction and method section that you guys did? Have you guys? Hopefully you guys took that time to build that, and I really appreciate those of you guys who were able to get those drafts in early, and we try to get some feedback for you. So, did anybody have trouble working with the track changes function in Microsoft Word? Was that the first time that you guys had used track changes? Yeah? Did it seem weird and clunky at first, or was it pretty intuitive?
I don't know how to do it.
Sorry?
I don't like learning how to do it.
Yeah, it's kind of weird at first, isn't it? Did it work out okay though?
Yeah, I know.
Did it take a long time to figure it out?
Yeah.
Okay, that's not too bad. So yeah, so if anybody is not familiar with Microsoft Track Changes, it's the function that I'll use to provide edits and feedback on the drafts and the papers. And it's kind of weird and clunky at first, but once you get used to it, it's actually pretty seamless and it can make things go really quick. The one thing to obviously be aware of is sometimes it can make it look like there's a bunch of red stuff on the screen or a bunch of stuff that looks really crazy and difficult to understand at first. But if you take it sort of a systematic way, and I provided those video links to say YouTube examples of how to work with track changes and how it works and how to understand it, that if you work through it one piece at a time, you can right click on each element of the change and it can tell you to accept that change or reject that change based on if you want to integrate that suggestion. And so it allows you to see what we do to try to improve the papers at each level, and then decide if that's what you want to keep or reject or whatnot. And then there's obviously comments in the right-hand margin that allows us to make little notes and communicate with you guys so that you can sort of see our train of thinking and why we might suggest one thing or another. And then once you want to get rid of those, you basically can hover your mouse pointer over the sort of the title of the comment and right click and select the option for delete comment when you're done reading it. And so it's a good way. You can also, you can walk through the menu. So if you, let me see if I can show this. You can click through the menu of review, which would be up here. Okay, and you can either delete a comment here, or you can also, this would be the button you would press in order to make changes, but for each one that's made, each comment that we would make or suggestion or edit, you can click either this button to reject or accept, and in fact you can click this down menu for accept, and you can accept all the changes at first, and just say, whatever they say to do, I'm just going to do that. Now, my recommendation for that is not to do it all en masse, at least certainly not at first, because I want you guys to learn from the feedback. feedback and go through and see sort of step by step, what did we recommend, why did we recommend doing it, and then I'd like you guys to make the executive decision as the author of your own work of whether or not you want to accept the advice or reject it or incorporate it or do not, and so that's more of a piece-by-piece process. So you can work through that using this little accept or reject tab and go to each edit of the previous one or the next one, or do it reject all comments or accept all of them or what have you. So if anybody wasn't familiar with that process, I just wanted to introduce it as we sort of move a little bit deeper into the writing process, because that's a really important part of the class. Are there any questions about that feedback? No? I tried to give some constructive feedback. A lot of you guys did a really good job, really good starting points, and hopefully you can see the benefit of turning these drafts in, because anything that we might have found as a concern or an issue, we have a chance to basically tool up without losing any points on it. So it's this sort of process that obviously we want to design to make sure you do really well and get you as many points as you can. Just like anything in life, that's going to mean that we have to work a little bit beforehand to make sure we do a little bit better later. So wish you guys are doing that. So try to take advantage of that on the future upcoming sessions of the work as well. So let's see here. Any other questions or experiences with that? Okay. So good job along those lines. The other thing that I posted to the class, I believe it was Blackboard's site. I forget if I sent it as an email or Blackboard, but I'm pretty sure it was Blackboard, that I put up a link to a Microsoft Word file that was actually on our course folder, uploaded on Drive, that included kind of a list of common observations of basically things that were very commonly edited in a lot of the drafts, be it either introduction or method sections, that a lot of people made pretty routinely. So Lindsay was very generous in sort of collating that, because there's common things that everybody was kind of doing wrong, and so we can identify those and we can make sure everyone's doing it right. So I would encourage you guys to take a glance at that and read through it a little bit. Try to gain that feedback, and remember that there's a lot of really good resources in the APA manual for guiding some of those basic elements. But this is what the course is designed to do, is help us to learn through that process of trial and error, draft revision, how to make these professional scientific reports on scientific data. So try to take advantage of those resources if you have them available. Any questions? Yes, sir.
If you get around to putting chunks of it together, will you resend it to get more feedback?
Sure, absolutely, yeah. That's definitely the idea. And in fact, that's what's going to be, I believe, a few weeks from now on the syllabus. There's something, I believe we called it Exam 2, but it's basically the first manuscript draft. It's going to be basically chunking these pieces together into a cohesive manuscript. And so I believe that Wednesday we have a formal exam, it's our midterm, and then I believe in the subsequent class dates and weeks due, if my memory serves me right from the syllabus outline, that we have different sections that will similarly do as drafts. We'll have the results, discussion, abstract. So you should be thinking about the abstract now too. If you're reading about how the APA manual says to make those, we talked about them. You can revisit our conversations about them in the lectures online on the YouTube videos, and be thinking about how you want to construct your abstract. You're not going to have the information exactly right now of your results to put in the abstract, but you can definitely write the first half of it, right? You can write the motivating introductions to the project. You can write the brief descriptions of the methods that were used generically in the experiments, and you can start to craft that at a very draft level. Likewise, we'll have the results and discussion. We'll work on those in pieces like we've been doing. You can absolutely start bringing it together, and feel free to send them for further feedback to either Lindsay or myself. And the one thing I would ask though, if you do it, is obviously, I'm assuming it kind of goes without saying, but when you do that, please make sure that you've made progress on it from the edits that we've already recommended. So, sort of an obvious thing, but just make sure that when you do it, that you put some time into actually building it and responding to the comments. And you don't have to accept them if you don't want to, but think about them and have a reason to justify why you might not have gone along with them. Be like, that was a really interesting comment, I see what you mean, But I was thinking about it in this other way, and I was thinking that I should do it in this other way, like this. What do you think about that? Perfectly fine to push back and advocate for your thing, but I want to encourage you guys to be able to justify why you're doing something or taking it. Because you are the executive decider. It's your paper, it's your decision, and I want you guys to have total autonomy as the primary author, and use us as kind of stewards and guides to help you along the way. But I mean, it's yours, and I want to enable you guys to really take that autonomy. Yeah, question?
In the exam, it's multiple choice. Do we need anything?
It's not just multiple choice, but yes, there will be some multiple choice.
Okay. What is required of us on that day? Do we need to bring any Scantrons?
No Scantrons.
Okay.
It'll probably be on Blackboard most likely. It will require you to do everything that we've been practicing and training and studying and learning. So you're going to have to know how to work with MATLAB. You're going to have to understand the theoretical elements of what we've been talking about in cognitive neuroscience, the elements of memory and that type of cognitive psychology. You're going to have to understand some basic elements of electrophysiology that we've talked about that has been assigned to read. There will be questions, there will probably be a few questions on things from the book that we haven't talked about and haven't had time to talk about in class, or that people were expected to have read and didn't ask questions about, because I assume that you guys already have it down since you didn't ask for any clarification. So there will be a couple of those, just kind of keep people honest on the reading, but it will be very obviously centric to the lecture primarily. It'll test your abilities to do what we've been practicing, and not just to do what we've been practicing with MATLAB, but do you understand the concepts behind it? Do you understand why we're doing what we've been learning? So not just sort of processing pipelines of what to do and how to work with data, but do you understand why, what is the justification and reasoning for taking each step that we're taking?
I'm smelling what you're stepping
Sorry?
in. I'm smelling what you're stepping in.
I can't hear you.
I said I'm smelling what you're stepping in.
You're smelling what I'm stepping. All right, cool. All right. So she said she was smelling what I was stepping. She's picking up what I'm laying down. She's understanding what I'm saying.
I wouldn't have put it that way, but
Yeah, I like it. It's creative. It's good. Okay, so we got some of that stuff. Any questions? Yes, sir.
If it's possible, is there any way that you can quiz questions that we
Re-upload the quiz questions.
yeah, like that we've done? I know you questions from the future and some things also.
I think that the quizzes that you've taken on Blackboard are still there. You can still visit them. They're still there. Yeah. So is there other quizzes that are not on there?
Just
No,
the
we did
one
on
that
paper.
we did last week.
Oh, just the ones on paper.
Yeah, I think there's only really one on paper.
There's just one.
Okay, better than the one we did. That's just.
Last week was on Blackboard, I think.
Yeah.
So that should be accessible, as far as I'm aware.
So probably just the first one.
Yeah, did I give them back to you guys? No? Okay,
we saw our score, but we didn't.
when we take a break later on today, I'll go grab it from my office and I'll bring it back for you. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Question round?
No, it's not, it's intention about that.
Okay, yeah, let me just make a note. Yeah, I thought I had those back to you, but I'll give them to you and do all that. Okay, so let's see. So in terms of the data, thank you guys for those of you guys who uploaded your data and did that and turned in your paperwork. A couple notes on that were that not everyone turned in their paperwork. So please get your paperwork in, which is your experimental paperwork, the consent forms, the demographic forms, your experiment logs. Okay, so if you haven't done that, please get that in ASAP. That was due Friday at noon in the psychology office. You can put it in my mailbox or ask them to do so. So if you had a chance to do that, thank you very much. If you haven't, try to get that in, please. And along that same line, not everyone turned in the paperwork, but not all the paperwork that was turned in was completed. So I just want to remind you guys, please try to be diligent in collecting that data, particularly, I mean, this is a class about experimental psychology and laboratory stuff, so it's a really important part of the curriculum to make sure that, basically it's my job to make sure I underscore the elements of conducting laboratory research in biological psychology. So in this case, for our class, that means making sure we really understand what's involved in collecting data and experimental skills. So when we're collecting data, it's really important to keep those logs of what's happening. So a handful of people didn't complete the time logs of what time did they begin the study session, what time did it end, what time did they complete the testing sessions, what time did that end. And it's really good and important scientific skills and experimenter skills to be really on point with keeping very copious records of what's happening in the experiments and why. And sometimes you don't end up sometimes you don't use that information at all. Sometimes you might end up using it a year later when you're reanalyzing the data for publication or something like that, or a reviewer asks a question about something that happened, and you just want to make sure that you practice taking very good notes and logging all that stuff. So a handful of people didn't do that, and so I just want to encourage you guys that that's not a superfluous or trivial part of the process. It's a really important one. And I've had data, actually some of this data that you guys are working with, that I've had to go back on my logs years later and find out what happened to that subject. Why is there, you guys have seen some of those EEG data where there was that one electrode, C4, that kept getting whacked for those 50 trials, right? That I might have been reanalyzing a year or two after it was collected. And I'll have to go back and I'll see if I can actually find my experimental notes from that sheet. I'll send it to you guys. That says what went wrong. Why was that like that? Was there a problem with an electrode? Did I have to go in and fix it? That stuff is really helpful. So those timestamps are important. So I just want to remind you guys, because that's a really important part of the process that we are supposed to be practicing skill sets on in this class in particular. So I'd be remiss if we didn't cover that again. Okay, so were there any other questions or problems or concerns or anything that you experienced in terms of collecting the data and keeping good logs and the paperwork side of things? Yeah.
I think for one of mine, it probably has to be thrown out. Is that?
We can do that. Why? What was the reason?
The timing.
What do you mean?
I think it takes them too long to. Are you not hearing that?
Yes. Okay. So the question was, or the idea was that maybe we have to get rid of some of the subjects that were submitted because maybe there was a problem with the timing, they were taking too long or something. So also a good reason underscores why we need to keep the logs on the timing. And it's okay, sometimes you have to exclude subjects from analysis. That's part of the process. That's why we collect lots of people, because we know that there's going to be a certain attrition. And that's normal, that's okay. We can work through that. But perhaps we might be able to salvage it too. So sometimes the timing itself could be okay. They were a little bit more delayed, but it just depends on sort of situational factors on, what happened. So we can talk a little bit later about it if you have questions. But did you note it on the log sheets? On the notes? So we'll log it. Yeah. Okay. So any issues like that comes up, make sure you log that in your experimenter notes and the log sheets for that stuff. So if we were in like a bench science, what they call like a wet lab, that would be, let's say, working with cell cultures or microscopes or something like that. Sort of the gold standard that a lot of people do is keep a lab notebook. And that's sort of almost required. In fact, I think it is required by NIH. They keep a lab notebook that keeps a lot of stuff. We do things very similar to that, but we just keep it on the individual leaves and we keep it collected and that, but it serves the same purpose. And so it is a really, really important thing to keep those notes and logs. Yes?
I'll be honest, I probably missing a little bit of that just because I wrote in like the basic beginnings, but it's just because we weren't doing any EEG, we kind of want to do that, but is there any way we can look over and have a meeting about data? Because, you know, it would have kept track of the time, right? It was the-
Yeah,
When you started it.
it would actually. You're absolutely right. And so, when you open up those log files, it logs every little microsecond of everything that happened. And so you're right, we can go back and re-put that information in. Because when you open up the log file, and we'll work through that, and I'll show you where to find it, you can find the time it started, the time it ended, and you can start to fill in those gaps. And we'll get to that point probably next week, and we'll start filling in those details. So the people who weren't able to do that, we've been working on collating everyone's forms. Patricia, I know you helped on that, so thank you very much. So we will have that ready for you probably next week. So my plan is to sort of prepare for the test today, learn some new things that will be on the test, and, I'm sorry?
I said, oh.
Yes. And so, and basically try to get you guys as ready as possible to succeed on the test. And then when we come back next class, I should say next Monday that is, then we will start with the actual analysis of the data that you collected. So, and then that way I don't confuse you with anything unnecessary for the test beforehand and give you the stuff just to focus on and try to help you out there. Question?
You mentioned that some behavioral or demographic data were missing. I think mine was too, on mine, because I was just like, oh, I know myself, and I forgot to actually put it down. Who do we contact to get that stored away?
Just come to my office hours, we'll sort it out.
Okay.
I'll bring all those papers in a big stack, probably next Monday, and we'll fill in some of those gaps, and you can sort of get to it. So, yeah. So we'll work on that, and we'll get that form available for everyone probably next Monday, when we can kind of work together and fill that out. But again, I want to make sure that what we do focus on is the stuff relevant to help you score points in Excel on the test. And so kind of prioritize and execute what we need to do. So right now we're prioritizing what's in front of us that we need to do, which is test preparation. You can do that. And then next class we'll start taking the next steps with the data. Are there any questions on that? Okay, cool. So, did anybody have a chance to practice since we last met? You did? You did all of them? All of the subjects? Like 50 some odd?
Well, no, I did 30 of them.
30? Wow, awesome.
I tried to do the shortcut, I couldn't figure it out. So
That's
I did
really
them all
great.
by hand.
I'm sorry?
I just did it all by hand because I couldn't figure out the shortcut.
That's awesome. That's really cool. So what was, no, I'm really impressed. That's really cool. So did you have any observations or insight or experience on that?
It's kind of annoying because you would go through to get to the subjects and then you would get to the artifact rejection and they were just so bad. So you'd have to just start all over and find another subject. That happened to me like 4 or 5 times.
What do you mean so bad?
Like they were just, all the recordings were just horrible, but like you have to reject most of them. So I was like, I'd rather just do a dozen per subject where I don't have to reject so many so I know it'll actually work better.
Yeah.
So I got to one I rejected like 200 out of 300. I was like, there's no point to use this subject.
Yes, that's a really good point. So there's a couple of really bad subject recordings. And because, I mean, not all subjects are recorded equally. It's not, and who is recording that? You guys know who recorded this data? Yeah, yours truly. Right? I was a grad student, I was learning. There were some that I was bad at.
Well, I was like grad students just to be people.
Yeah, right? I mean, I was learning, people learning, sometimes things don't go as well. Other times you'll see subjects that look real good, right? Yeah, those days, let's get my swerve on. Things are good.
That's kind of, I wasn't able to do many sheet games, but I did a few.
Yeah.
And I kept running into ones that would not open. That I couldn't even load that data set. So I'd be like I took note of which ones wouldn't work. And so it'd be number 15 worked, 16, 17, 18, 19 don't work, 20 work, or no, 20 didn't work, 21 works.
Okay.
And then I don't know about 22 yet,
So
but
we can create a little spreadsheet that people can fill in and see if there's some consistency on the ones that just don't work, and then that gives me a target that I can troubleshoot and fix up, and find out if there's a reason why the file is not operating. But that's really good. That's also why I tried to upload a bunch, like 50 or 60 subjects, and say we'll select a subset of 30 or somewhat, because there's going to be some of those that then you can look at and say they're not opening, I'm not going to use them, or well, you did, and say, you know, this one's just terrible. But it underscores a key point too. Not only that, but when we do analyze data more broadly, we have to make a sort of a criterion that we say of how many trials are we going to be okay with rejecting before saying, you know what, this subject is not useful. We need to just exclude them entirely from the analysis, right? And so, like you said, 200 out of 300, that's more than 50%. If you're rejecting that many trials, and you can't, it doesn't make sense to include it, because you got to think about this as your thesis. You're hanging your hat, your professional reputation, on that data. And so you do want to make sure that what you're hanging your hat on is data that you can have faith in, that's actually an accurate representation of that subject's neurocognitive experience during that examination. In which case you want to make sure you have the majority of those experiences. So really good points. And that's another reason why we want to log as well the trials that you're rejecting. Maybe not every single individual trial, but maybe the numbers that you're rejecting. And so you can you can keep your own little Excel log of what subject numbers that you used, and in the next cell next to that subject number, you can say how many trials did I reject for this person. So if you didn't happen to do that yet, one way you can do that that's easy is you can load in each subject, right? And it'll tell you in your artifact rejected files of the EEG, it'll tell you how many trials are actually in that subject's file. So there might be 244, right? So you just load that up, right? 244, right? So you might have, this is your Excel file. You can have a little cell that it's going to be, you're going to have your subject number, and then you can have included trials, right? And so you might have picked, so let's say subject 8 and subject 9, and etc. down. And let's say subject 8, you open up you load that EEG file, and it says trials are epics, right? It's going to be in the epic criteria. And let's say, what do we say, 244? And let's say subject 9 had 280, right? Now we also know that we started off with 300 trials, right? So let's say what we really want to know is how many trials were excluded, right? And so you create another column, and you can write a little equation. How many of you guys are familiar with writing formulas or equations in Excel? A little bit. So Excel is basically a calculator. And what you can do is write equals, and you can just do 300 is our starting point, minus, and let's call this, okay, just for good measure, I'm going to label this is column A, B, and C, and this is row 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. It would be 300 minus B2 in this case. So it's 300 minus this cell, and when you press enter, it'll automatically just give you that subtracted number, and you'll know exactly how many you rejected. Make sense?
The only other thing I saw is some of the subjects didn't have 300 trials, they had like 100 or something. So
Yeah.
does that matter, or?
Yeah, well, it would. Yeah, absolutely. So you would have to just manually adjust that formula for those particular subjects, because there was a few subjects that didn't have all those trials recorded. So again, I'll see if I can find my logs of my notes when I actually collected the data the same way you guys kept your notes, and you'll see that there's some, let's say they started off with 100 or 250 trials. I might have forgot to press the record button on the EEG during one of the first or the last sessions or something like that. At which point, you go, oh crap, press the button, and you've lost one session. Or it might be not the whole session, but maybe I missed the first 4 trials. So maybe they started off at 396 or something, or 290. But yeah, so there's a couple of those for those reasons. Or maybe that the recordings were just bad and we excluded them. So yeah, so that's what you would do. You would have to manually adjust that on those couple subjects that you know. But for the most part, what you can do then is then grab, when you're selecting this cell, you can grab this little corner and drag it down, and it'll bring that same equation down and adjust this cell for every one cell down. So it's a really nifty way to do that. You guys want to see an example? Okay, I'll just show you quickly in Excel, just because my art might not be as good. Okay, so let me erase this. You want to hit the lights in the back? So the reason that this is also useful isn't just for our own internal sanity checks and our internal validity assessments of the data that we're using. And perhaps you've selected your 30 subjects, and then you go do and you check your log, and you say, identify any subjects in which I rejected more than 50% of the trials, or 40% of the trials. And you identify those subjects, now you say, I have to throw those out. And so now you would report your findings on 27 subjects instead of 30. And you would have to say in your method section, say, for example, for our purposes, we collected data from 30 subjects, and 27 of which were usable, three subjects were excluded due to technical problems with the data, or due to having rejected more than our criterion cutoff for inclusion, which was 40% of the trials, or something like that. So you'd want to say that in the methods.
Okay, so we can do that instead of like going to find, doing like more subjects, so it's
Oh, yeah.
not 30? Oh,
Yeah, that's fine. That's cool.
I thought we were gonna have to like go back and do more.
No,
Okay.
no. But the only way you can do that is if you keep a log like this, right? Because you want to know. And so, let's see here. So if I zoom in here real big. That's nice and big, right? Okay, so let's say you have subject number, we had trials included, trials excluded. And you can hover over this little bar there, spread that out. And so let's say, MATLAB, I'll just say for example, let's say we have subject 8, 9, 14, 15, etc. So I'm just making up numbers just for example purposes here. Let's say the number of trials that were included for subject 8 were, 254. Subject 9 had 293. Subject 14 had 134. Subject 15 had 229. Right? Now we started off with 300, so we go, here's the equation, right? Equals, in this case it would be 300 minus, and I'll just grab that cell. So the way that this works is you got to start with the equal sign. Make sure you just hit the normal subtraction sign there. But when you type in, or you don't have to type in B2, you can use your mouse and just like highlight this cell, and it'll automatically populate that information there. Okay, so then I press enter, and it gives me the result of that math equation. So in this case, it's 46 trials that were rejected, and so center. Okay, do you guys want to call them trials excluded, or do you want to call them rejects? Let's call them rejects. Now here's what I was talking about, where you can then, you type that equation in once and you can auto-populate everything down. So you grab this, let's say bottom right-hand corner, okay? See how there's this little extra thick little square there? If you snag that with your mouse, all you have to do is just drag it down, done. Easy. Question?
I'll just watch the video again.
Yeah, it's easy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'll just do it again, right? Control Z is undo. So let's just do it again. We grab that bottom. See how when I hover over it, that little plus sign gets dark? Okay. Just bring it down. Now what if I grab it here and I bring it down further? It's going to say 300 because the equation is still, if you grab that cell, it'll tell you up here is the formula bar. It'll tell you what it is. It's 300 minus, in this case, B6, which would be this cell. Which, of course, 300 minus nothing, because there's nothing in here, is what's going to give us 300. So that's why that looks like that. And it's a pretty nifty little way to start navigating your way through Excel. You want to keep those logs. Any questions on that little process? Because you are going to need to report that information in your methods. So right now we've only talked about a methods section that describes what you did to collect the data, a little bit about analyzing the data. But when you're asking about submitting updated versions of those drafts and stuff like that, these are the things that we're going to build into things in new additions and new revisions. We're going to be consistently adding so that by the time you're done with the class, you're going to have a beast of a paper. My hope is that it's really a beast of a paper that you can really be proud of as something to hang your hat on as your capstone course. Are most of you guys graduating this quarter? Mm-hmm. Yeah? Okay, so my goal is to send you off on graduation with a product that you're proud of because you worked really hard on it and said, this was a lot of work, it was really hard, and it was hopefully providing a very nice capstone experience in psychology and on the biological realm. And send you off on a good note. So push it. I know I'm pushing you guys hard, but it's towards that goal. I really want you to have something that you can be proud of based on that hard work. Is there a question?
I was stretching, but in regards to the reading to prepare for Wednesday, I can't find Pip at all.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know where.
So it might be in the folder for articles.
I
It's not in there? Okay, so the article for Picton et al. is, so Terrence Picton had a paper, and let's see here, if we come to PubMed, okay, and let's say we come here, we go Picton, was it 2001?
2001, yes.
And, oh, you get lots of results. Okay, let's do ERP, we'll add that in there. Okay.
If you look at the reading list he has, like on the articles, there's like a list of them. It's in there, and I just copied it into our school one, and it popped up.
Oh, okay.
It's a methods paper, is what it is. And let's see here. Another way to look for this is to do terms. So, you guys are learning some familiarity with PubMed. It's pretty useful searching. Now, my guess is that this is not, I don't know, is it 2001 or is it 2002 maybe?
Is this 2001 at all?
Yeah. Huh. Well, the other thing we do is just go to the old Google. Guidelines for best practices. Oh, that's 2005. Sorry. Let's see if we can do that after. Well, I'll find it for you, and it's available. And if not, you can email it to me, and I'll send it to you.
You said it's available on the.
I'm sure it's available online. Just having trouble finding it
Okay.
right now.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't wanna, inject the process.
Yeah. There it is, right there. Guidelines for using human ERPs to study cognition. So this is just a very simple paper. It's kind of like one of the guidelines in the field. A bunch of the big heavy hitters who are pioneers in ERP research all came together and authored a paper. And they basically, it's kind of like the ERP version of the APA manual.
Oh, gotcha.
You know, so, you know, the APA manual is nice. By the way, I should say, I noticed in the methods section that a lot of people have a statement in there about the data was collected in accordance with the APA manual or something like that. That doesn't have to be there.
Can we say that it was, that like the EEG stuff was for that?
Yes. Well, you don't want, I mean, you don't need to,
I think I did IRB protocol.
yeah, IRB, definitely. So again, you want to look,
I did AP.
so I don't know, I know that might be something common in maybe 311 classes or something, but my challenge to you is this, and it's just a healthy challenge, which is find me papers of examples where people say that in the methods. And in 15 years of academic scientific research in the field, I've never seen that. And maybe that's just because my little niche is in something like this and we just don't happen to do that in this genre. But I just don't see that, and I want to train you guys to write in the way that professional people actually publish with. And so you can do away with that. For whatever reason, you didn't want to include that. Yeah, does that sound like a good deal? Where did that come from? 311?
311, my lab instructor told us to do that.
Well, yeah.
Really?
I'm telling you,
Everything you learned in 311, just throw it out the window.
that's not true.
Not
I mean, my
everything, like
I
the
know
most
most
basic scaffold
My
of an
instructor told me,
APA
like,
style
this is
paper
like
and
the-
learn
Yeah,
that.
the scaffold's important.
That's not how
But
they all.
again, and you're welcome to put it in if you want to, but what I'm going to grade it with is I'm going to say, you know, is this what papers look like in the field that you read in your literature? And if when you look in the methods section of everything that you're reading in your literature review, if you can find it, by all means, mirror that and replicate it in, but it's just not what we're used to in this field, and so that's the knowledge that I want to impart and share with you guys is what I've learned in the field, and that's just not a part of that, so.
That's for the year 2000.
Yeah, I believe this is, it says 2000, that's why it wasn't coming up, I had the wrong year. 01 instead of 00.
Yeah, that's.
So that's what that is, 2000. Now, you'll notice that when you go through here, it just basically says, you know, general rules on how to design some experiments, how to report data. Let's see here. So for example, right, you want to describe your subjects. It says you need to report the age ranges, yada, yada, yada. And so when you're reporting your stuff, you ever have questions about how to do something or the best way to do it, you know, those are the things that, so for example, we talk about when we load our data into MATLAB. Remember our file names was the subject number re-referenced to the mastoid. So it says, the reference should be specified. So you want to specify what your reference sites were. We'll work on that when we get into further depths with the methods and the results section. But you can put that in your methods section now. If we talk about your analyses, the methods for analysis, you want to say,